At the center of the chamber stood Tom Hardy, the human diplomat. He was an imposing figure, taller than most present, his frame wrapped in the formal, unassuming black of Earth's diplomatic corps. His sharp blue eyes scanned the room with a calm detachment, absorbing every detail. The twitch of a tentacle, the flicker of an antenna, the sidelong glances exchanged by the Kravashi delegation. The Kravashi were a reptilian species, towering and brutal, their scales shimmering like molten metal under the chamber's ambient light. Their leader, Commander Volkan, loomed at the edge of his platform, his claws drumming impatiently on the railing. Volkan's disdain for humanity was palpable, his slit-pupiled eyes narrowing as they landed on Tom. Humans have no place in these discussions. Volkan's voice thundered, amplified by the chamber's acoustics. Your kind is weak, inconsequential. You seek to lecture us on unity, yet you offer nothing but empty words. Tom remained unmoved. Commander Volkan, he began, his voice measured and calm. Your accusations lack substance. Humanity has contributed technological and scientific advances that have benefited this council. What we offer is far from empty. The murmurs in the chamber shifted. Some species nodded in agreement. Others avoided eye contact. Humanity's rapid ascent on the galactic stage had unsettled many, especially the Kravashi, who thrived on dominance and intimidation. Volkan's lips curled into a sneer. Your advances are crumbs, Hardy. Your species has barely crawled out of its own gravity well. Yet you dare to stand here and demand respect. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a low growl. You are insects pretending to be giants. You have no idea the forces you're trifling with. Tom's gaze didn't waver. And you have no idea what humanity is capable of when pushed too far. The chamber fell silent, the weight of Tom's words hanging heavy in the air. For a moment, even Volkan seemed caught off guard by the subtle steel beneath the diplomat's calm exterior. But then the Kravashi commander laughed, a harsh, guttural sound that echoed off the chamber walls. You speak as though you are a warrior, Hardy, Volkan mocked. But you are no more than a messenger. And messengers, he gestured to his guards, who stepped forward, their energy weapons humming to life, can be replaced. The attack was swift and brutal. The Kravashi guards moved with practiced precision, their weapons aimed directly at Tom. A few council members cried out in protest, but most froze, unwilling to intervene. This was not their fight. Tom didn't flinch. Instead, he raised a hand, his fingers tapping a sequence on the cuff of his sleeve. In an instant, the chamber was plunged into chaos. The lights flickered, and a high-pitched whine filled the air as an EMP pulse erupted from Tom's suit, disabling every piece of electronic equipment within the room. The Kravashi guards stumbled, their weapons sparking uselessly in their claws. Volkan snarled, his eyes darting around as he realized their advantage had vanished. Tom moved. He was a blur of motion, his formal demeanor shedding like a discarded mask. In a single fluid movement, he closed the distance to the nearest guard, disarming the alien with a calculated strike to its wrist. The weapon clattered to the ground, and Tom followed up with a brutal elbow to the guard's snout, sending it sprawling. The second guard hesitated, a mistake. Tom's foot lashed out, catching the alien in the knee joint and dropping it to the floor. A sharp twist of its arm disarmed it, and a final strike to its temple rendered it unconscious. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted, scrambled, and some even fled as the realization dawned. The human diplomat was no mere negotiator. Volkan roared, leaping down from his platform to confront Tom directly. You dare attack the Kravashi? He bellowed, his claws slashing through the air. Tom sidestepped the attack with a precision that spoke of years of training. You attacked first, he replied coldly. I'm merely finishing what you started. The fight between them was brief but ferocious. Volkan's strength and feral aggression were formidable. But Tom was faster, his movements honed by a lifetime of discipline and survival. Within moments, the Kravashi commander found himself disarmed and pinned, Tom's knee pressing into his back. The room was silent once more, save for Volkan's labored breathing. Tom leaned down, his voice low and deadly. "You made a mistake, Commander. You assumed humanity's patience was weakness. Let me assure you, it is not." As he released Volkan, letting the alien slump to the ground, Tom straightened and turned to face the council. His suit was torn, his knuckles bloodied, but his expression was calm once more. "Humanity seeks peace," he said, his voice carrying over the stunned assembly. "But we will not be bullied. Let today serve as a reminder. We are not to be underestimated." The words hung in the air, a challenge and a warning. And though no one spoke, the message was clear. Tom Hardy was more than a diplomat. He was a force to be reckoned with, a shadow of humanity's hidden strength. As he stood there, his eyes scanning the room, a faint smile tugged at the corner of his lips. They didn't know the half of it. The chamber was frozen in the aftermath of chaos, the silence broken only by the shallow groans of the Kravashi guards sprawled on the floor. Tom Hardy stood at the center, his posture steady, his breathing controlled. His black diplomatic suit was marred with tears and blood, but there was no sign of fatigue in his piercing blue eyes. He surveyed the room, a predator among prey, his calm demeanor now carrying an unmistakable edge of menace. Commander Volkan staggered to his feet, his massive frame trembling with rage. His claws flexed, his scaled chest heaving with indignation, but his eyes betrayed the first flickers of doubt. You're no diplomat," he spat, his voice a guttural growl. "Who are you, human? What are you?" Tom tilted his head slightly, as if considering whether to answer. Then, with a faint, almost amused smirk, he replied, "I am exactly who I said I am, Commander, a diplomat. I'm just uniquely qualified for this role." Before Volkan could respond, Tom raised his wrist, revealing a slim, almost unnoticeable device embedded in the fabric of his sleeve. His fingers moved in a precise sequence, activating something that sent a pulse through the air, silent, invisible, but undeniably felt. The room's dim lighting flickered briefly, and then, one by one, concealed nodes along the walls began to hum. Far above, outside the council station, the dark void of space rippled as dozens of sleek, black ships uncloaked in perfect formation. These were no ordinary vessels. They bore no identifying marks, their matte surfaces seeming to absorb the light of the surrounding stars. Their design was menacingly efficient, with sharp angles and weapon arrays that hinted at devastating capabilities. Inside the chamber, several alien delegates gasped, their whispers filling the void left by the silence. The Kravashi representatives exchanged panicked glances, their bravado crumbling as their comm devices failed, their escape route suddenly uncertain. "You called for reinforcements?" Volkan growled, his voice tinged with disbelief. Tom's smirk widened. "Not reinforcements. I called my army." A faint hiss echoed through the chamber as the council's massive doors slid open. Marching in perfect unison came a squadron of armored soldiers, their black exosuits gleaming under the flickering lights. Each one bore a crimson emblem on their chestplate, a stylized depiction of a skull wreathed in fire. They moved with precision, their heavy boots striking the ground in a rhythm that sent chills through even the most hardened council members. "The Black Legion," whispered a voice from the far corner of the chamber, trembling with recognition. Tom stepped forward, his boots clicking softly against the polished floor. The soldiers halted behind him, their presence a silent but undeniable declaration of power. "Allow me to formally introduce you," Tom said, his voice calm yet unyielding. "These are the Black Legion. They are humanity's answer to the threats you thought we couldn't face." The room erupted into shouts and protests. Delegates demanded explanations, hurled accusations, and scrambled for control of a situation that had slipped through their grasp. The Kravashi delegation, however, remained silent, their predatory confidence shattered. Tom raised a hand, and the noise subsided. The Black Legion soldiers raised their weapons in unison, their targeting lasers painting the walls with faint red dots. The message was clear. Order would be maintained. I warned you, Commander Vrolcan, Tom continued, his tone almost conversational. I warned you not to mistake humanity's patience for weakness. And yet, here we are. He gestured toward the fallen guards and the trembling council members. All because you couldn't help yourselves. Vrolcan snarled, stepping closer despite the soldiers' raised weapons. You think this changes anything? You may have soldiers, but the Kravashi are an empire. We will not bow to some human warlord. Tom's expression darkened. His voice, though quiet, carried the weight of unshakable authority. Empire or not, you will listen? He took a deliberate step forward, his gaze locking with Vrolcan's. Because if you don't, I will burn your empire to ash and scatter its remains across the stars. And I won't lose a night's sleep over it. The word struck like a hammer. Vrolcan faltered, his bravado crumbling under the force of Tom's resolve. The chamber seemed to shrink, the weight of Tom's presence pressing down on everyone within. You think I'm bluffing? Tom said, his voice sharper now. Do you know what they call me on the fringe worlds? On the planets where the Kravashi dared to raid before humanity had a seat at this table. He paused, letting the silence draw taut. They call me Baba Yaga. The name sent ripples of unease through the chamber. Even those unfamiliar with human folklore could sense the weight of it, the unspoken promise of destruction it carried. Vrolcan's eyes widened, the realization dawning on him like a cold dawn. Baba Yaga is a myth, Vrolcan said, but his voice lacked conviction. Tom smiled a cold, humorless expression. Oh, I assure you, Commander, I am very real. The Kravashi leader took an involuntary step back, his claws curling against his palms. Around him, the council members watched in stunned silence, the balance of power in the galaxy shifting before their eyes. Tom turned to the assembly, his voice carrying an icy certainty. Humanity has endured your disdain, your mockery, your threats. We have listened, we have negotiated, and we have sought peace at every turn. But no more. Today, I remind you all that patience has its limits, and humanity's limit has been reached. Behind him, the Black Legion stood like statues, their presence a silent affirmation of their leader's words. The ships hovering above the station adjusted their formations, their weapon systems primed but silent, a reminder of the power that humanity now wielded. Tom's gaze swept across the room, lingering on each delegate long enough to ensure his message was understood. You wanted to see what humanity could do when cornered. Well, now you've seen it, and I promise you, this is only the beginning. He turned back to Vrolcan, who stood frozen, his pride and fury clashing with the realization of his helplessness. Tom leaned in slightly, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. I will give you one chance, Commander. Stand down, apologize, and accept humanity as an equal, or I will ensure that the Kravashi Empire becomes a cautionary tale. Vrolcan hesitated, his jaw tightening. The chamber watched with bated breath, the weight of the moment palpable. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the Kravashi leader bowed his head, his voice a low growl of defeat. We yield. Tom straightened, his expression unreadable. Wise choice. The tension in the room began to ease, though the undercurrent of fear remained. The Black Legion soldiers lowered their weapons but remained at attention, their presence a constant reminder of humanity's newfound strength. As Tom turned to leave, his steps echoing through the silent chamber, he spoke one final time. Let this day be remembered. Humanity does not seek war, but we will not suffer humiliation. Cross us again, and you will not live to regret it. The chamber doors closed behind him, leaving the council in stunned silence. Outside, the Black Legion fleet adjusted their positions, the darkness of space swallowing their menacing forms. And within the chamber, a single thought lingered in the minds of all present. Humanity had arrived, and it would not be ignored. The Galactic Council chamber remained in disarray, its grandeur overshadowed by the weight of Tom Hardy's ultimatum. Delegates from dozens of species sat in stunned silence, their gazes shifting uneasily between each other and the imposing Black Legion soldiers who now controlled the room. The balance of power had shifted in an instant, and the assembled leaders of the galaxy were grappling with the uncomfortable truth that humanity had concealed its strength until now. Tom stood at the center of the chamber, a figure of quiet dominance. His bloodied hands rested calmly at his sides, his gaze sharp and unyielding as it swept across the room. Behind him, the Black Legion soldiers stood motionless, their polished black exocets giving them the appearance of living shadows. They needed no weapons drawn. Their presence alone was a statement that resonated with undeniable finality. A ripple of tension moved through the room as one of the delegates, a thin, wiry being with translucent skin and a cluster of bioluminescent organs glowing faintly beneath it, finally broke the silence. This is madness," it stammered, its voice trembling. "You cannot hold the Galactic Council hostage, human. Do you understand the repercussions of your actions?" Tom's lips curled into a faint smile, one devoid of warmth. "I understand perfectly," he said, his voice calm but carrying a dangerous undercurrent. "But let me make something abundantly clear. This is not a hostage situation. This is a recalibration of respect." Commander Volcan, nursing a bruised pride along with the cuts and scrapes from their earlier confrontation, bared his fangs from across the chamber. "Respect," he spat, his voice dripping with venom. "This is nothing more than barbarism. You think a show of force will earn humanity anything but contempt." Tom turned to face the Kravashi leader, his expression hardening. "I think it will remind you, Commander, that humanity is not to be trifled with. You've had every opportunity to negotiate, to treat us as equals, and instead, you chose to strike first. Now, you will face the consequences of that choice." Volcan snarled, but the faint tremor in his voice betrayed his unease. "You overestimate your power, human. The Kravashi Empire does not kneel. Reinforcements are already on their way, and when they arrive, they won't arrive." Tom interrupted, his tone sharp. He raised his wrist, activating a holographic display that projected a live feed of the surrounding space. The image showed the Kravashi fleet, a formidable armada of sleek, spiked ships, emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the system. For a moment, Volcan's confidence returned, his lips curling into a triumphant sneer. Then the feed shifted. The Kravashi ships faltered, their engines flickering as if caught in a web. One by one, their vessels went dark, their weapon systems failing, their movements reduced to aimless drifts. The camera panned to reveal a swarm of smaller human vessels, unmanned drones equipped with advanced EMP technology, dancing through the fleet like shadows. Tom allowed himself a small, satisfied nod. "I anticipated your move, Commander. The Black Legion doesn't just fight battles. We end them before they begin." The silence in the chamber deepened as the weight of humanity's strategic superiority became undeniable. Delegates who had once dismissed humanity as a minor player now exchanged nervous glances, the implications of Tom's actions sinking in. One of the council members, a massive insectoid creature with a carapace that shimmered like liquid silver, leaned forward on its segmented legs. Its voice clicked and buzzed through the translator. "What is it you truly want, human? If not war, then why provoke the galaxy in this manner?" Tom turned to address the entire assembly, his voice carrying a quiet authority that demanded attention. "What I want," he said, "is simple. I want humanity to have the respect it has earned. For years, we've contributed to this council, upheld your treaties, shared our advancements, and abided by your laws. And yet, time and again, we've been treated as less than equal. No longer." He began to pace slowly, his footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. "Today, I have shown you what humanity is capable of when pushed. This was not an act of aggression. It was a demonstration of resolve. If you continue to see us as weak, as expendable, then understand that we will respond accordingly, and you will not enjoy the results. The insectoid delegate tilted its head, its antennae twitching. You would risk war with the entire council to make this point. Tom stopped and turned to face the delegate directly. I'm not risking war. I'm preventing one. Because if the council continues to underestimate us, conflict is inevitable. I'm simply giving you a reason to think twice before it comes to that. Another delegate, a rotund, amphibious creature with skin that glistened like wet stone, croaked nervously. And if we agree to your demands, what assurances do we have that humanity won't use this demonstration to further its own ambitions at our expense? Tom regarded the delegate for a moment before speaking. Humanity has no interest in conquest, he said. What we seek is mutual respect and cooperation. But if you doubt our intentions, consider this. We have had the means to take what we wanted for years. We chose not to. That should tell you everything you need to know. The room fell silent once more, the weight of Tom's words pressing down on everyone present. Even Vrolkin seemed subdued, his fiery defiance tempered by the realization that he had underestimated his opponent. Tom returned to the center of the chamber, his posture relaxed but his presence commanding. Here is what will happen now, he said. The Kravashi will issue a formal apology to humanity for their unprovoked aggression. The Council will acknowledge humanity as an equal member, with all the rights and privileges that entails. And you will remember today as the moment when humanity earned its place among the stars, not through violence, but through strength and resolve. He paused, letting the silence stretch, his gaze daring anyone to challenge him. No one did. Do we have an agreement? He asked, his voice calm but unyielding. One by one, the delegates nodded, some reluctantly, others with a newfound respect for the human who had outmaneuvered them all. Vrolkan, his pride shattered, lowered his head in a begrudging gesture of submission. Tom inclined his head slightly, acknowledging the gesture. Good. Then we can put this unpleasantness behind us and move forward together. With that, he turned and strode toward the chamber doors, the Black Legion soldiers falling into step behind him. As the doors hissed open, Tom paused and glanced back over his shoulder. Remember this day, he said, his voice carrying a quiet, deadly promise. Remember what humanity is capable of, and remember that we do not take threats lightly. The doors closed behind him, leaving the council to contemplate the new reality Tom Hardy had forged. The galaxy would never see humanity the same way again, and for the first time, they began to wonder if that was what they should have feared all along. The sprawling skyline of Earth's capital gleamed under the light of twin moons. The Galactic Council's headquarters on the planet had been restored to its usual grandeur, but there was an unmistakable shift in the air. The council chambers, once a place where humanity's voice struggled to rise above the cacophony of other species, now reverberated with a quiet, commanding presence. Tom Hardy stood on a high balcony overlooking the city, the wind tugging gently at his coat. Below him, the streets were alive with celebration. Humanity had finally earned its seat at the table, not as a supplicant but as an equal. The scent of victory lingered in the air, though Tom felt its weight more keenly than its triumph. Behind him, the quiet hum of approaching footsteps drew his attention. General Marcus Riker, clad in the sleek black armor of the Black Legion, stepped onto the balcony. His imposing frame carried the confidence of a man who had spent decades in battle, yet his expression was solemn. "You're missing the festivities, sir," Riker said, his deep voice carrying over the wind. Tom didn't turn. "Celebrations are for the living. I'm thinking about the cost." Riker stepped closer, leaning on the balcony railing beside him. "We didn't lose a single soldier today, Tom. Not in the chamber, not in space. That's a victory by any measure." Tom's lips tightened. No casualties doesn't mean no cost. The galaxy won't forget what happened today, and it won't forgive. We've earned their respect, yes, but we've also put a target on our backs. Humanity won't get to live quietly anymore. Riker gave a low chuckle, his voice tinged with both amusement and understanding. "You think we were ever going to live quietly? You know as well as I do that this was inevitable. The moment we reached the stars, the moment they realized what we were capable of, they were always going to test us. Today, we showed them that the test was rigged. Tom glanced sideways at his old friend, his eyes narrowing slightly. And what happens when they test us again? When the Cravashi regroup, or when another species decides we've overstepped? We can't hold the galaxy at gunpoint forever. Riker's expression hardened, the lines on his face deepening. We don't need to hold them at gunpoint, but we've made it clear that if they come for us, they'll find us ready. That's all that matters. Fear might not make us many friends, but it will keep our enemies in check. Tom fell silent, his gaze returning to the horizon. In the distance, the lights of Black Legion ships streaked across the sky, their patrols ensuring the stability of Earth's newfound position. The sight filled him with equal parts pride and unease. "You've always been good at seeing the long game, Marcus," Tom said after a moment. "But sometimes I wonder if we've traded too much of ourselves to get here. Fear, strength, intimidation. They're tools, but they shouldn't be our legacy." Riker's eyes softened, though his tone remained resolute. "Legacy isn't built in a day, Tom. What we did today was secure our survival. The rest? That's up to the generations that come after us." The sound of approaching footsteps interrupted their conversation. A young Black Legion officer stepped onto the balcony, his movements precise and deferential. "Sir," he said, saluting smartly, "the council delegates have requested your presence. They wish to finalize the new charter." Tom sighed, his shoulders tightening for just a moment before he pushed the weariness aside. "Of course they do." He turned to Riker, a faint smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. "It seems my work is never done." Riker returned the smirk with a nod. "That's what you get for being Baba Yaga." Tom shook his head, the faintest hint of amusement breaking through his usual stoicism. "Baba Yaga is a myth. I'm just a man trying to keep humanity alive." The officer stepped aside as Tom made his way back inside, his steps deliberate but steady. The council chamber awaited, filled with the same beings who had once dismissed humanity as insignificant. Now, they watched him with a mix of respect and wariness, their positions carefully measured, their words chosen with the utmost caution. As Tom entered, the room fell silent. He moved to the center of the chamber, where a holographic projection of the new intergalactic charter hovered in the air. The document was a testament to humanity's new standing, its clauses reflecting the equality they had fought so hard to achieve. The insectoid delegate, its silver carapace glinting under the chamber's lights, clicked its mandibles together in a gesture of acknowledgement. "Representative Hardy," it said, its voice buzzing through the translator. "The council is prepared to ratify this agreement. Do you find the terms acceptable?" Tom studied the hologram, his sharp gaze scanning each line of text. Every clause, every word had been scrutinized, debated, and revised over the past several hours. The agreement represented more than just a political victory. It was a foundation for a future where humanity could thrive without fear of marginalization. He nodded once, his voice steady. "The terms are acceptable. Humanity is ready to sign." The room filled with murmurs, the other delegates exchanging glances. For the first time in centuries, they would have to treat humanity as an equal, a partner in shaping the galaxy's future. Tom stepped forward, placing his hand on the biometric scanner that would officially mark humanity's acceptance of the new charter. As the device beeped and the hologram shifted to reflect the completed agreement, a wave of tension seemed to release across the chamber. The insectoid delegate clicked its mandibles again, this time in what seemed to be a gesture of respect. "Then it is done. Humanity is now a full member of the Galactic Council, with all rights and responsibilities therein." Tom inclined his head, his expression neutral. "Thank you. I look forward to working with all of you to build a better future." As he turned to leave, the faintest trace of a smile touched his lips. It wasn't a smile of triumph or satisfaction, but of quiet determination. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, betrayals, and battles yet to come. But for the first time, humanity had a seat at the table. And as Tom Hardy walked out of the chamber, his footsteps echoing through the halls of power, he knew one thing for certain. Humanity's rise was only just beginning.